limits of where you are or where you think you're bounded by are probably way further out than you'd expect, but you're not gonna know it if you're too scared to really go out and try it.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Making a Man. Today we have Mr. Isaiah Baker with us, and we're really excited to have him on.
Isaiah, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming on to our show. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. You and I met, it's been a couple years ago, over a call, and you immediately caught my attention. Your story is pretty impressive and where you ended up. You're one of the rare individuals that I've talked to that really say, here's a course that I want to go, and you ultimately ended up doing it. It's very rare. And your background is incredible to me. You were recruited to play D1 basketball, which you did. You landed a high-profile job on Wall Street, and then you left to build a business in the parking lot striping industry. And it's an incredible journey. And you kind of said, here's what I'm going to do when I first talked to you, and here you are. So I have a lot of questions about that. But before I begin, the one thing I wanted to say, Axe, is like, before I ask Isaiah a question, the one thing Isaiah did is he invested in himself, right? Mm-hmm. Like he believed in himself enough he kind of had the world by a string. Like he had everything that he probably imagined he was going to do while he was in college and the career trajectory that he had. But he wanted more. He wanted more. And he invested heavily in himself to go to do what he's doing now. He's got a amazing wife and a newborn son who I got to meet his wife over a call as well. And Taylor's phenomenal. But it's rare when you find someone that's willing to step out and get the support of a spouse even to go invest in themselves and go do what they really wanted to do. So I'm really impressed by that. But if you could take us back, Isaiah, at the beginning of your journey when you were young, maybe take us through what brought you here today. That would be an interesting story for myself and Axel to hear.
Sure. I mean, I don't know how much time you have, but well, growing up, I kind of grew up in a basketball family. My father played professional basketball. All my cousins played basketball, either at the D1 level or whatnot. And I was really just a gym rat, I think, growing up. And was just very focused on that, and not that I think that was the best thing for me, but it's sort of is what I had my targets set on. And then very early in my college career, I herniated my L4, L5 vertebrae, and that sort of put a wrap or a pretty firm ceiling, I think, on what that trajectory would have looked like for me. And so it was kind of, all right, well, let's go back to the chalkboard and figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And I, always had an interest in economics. I wouldn't say, or in math and what's going on in world events and things of that nature. And I was an econ major, and so wound up really just cold calling a bunch of people who worked on Wall Street, worked in different banks, and figuring out what they were doing and all types of stuff, and literally walked into the headquarters of Goldman Sachs, 200 West, basically unannounced, and through a lot of luck and a lot of hard work, I actually got an internship there and got hired full time. And so I worked there on the sales and trading floor within the sales and trading business for almost 8 years. The first 2 or 3 years, I was in a sales role, or what's called a sales trader role, which is a hybrid sort of execution and sales seat. And again, I raised my hand and was like, I want to do something a little bit different. I had taught myself a pretty technical skill set while I was there, both on the finance side and also doing things with coding and stuff of that nature. And so I raised my hand again. I moved over to an actual trading seat. And after a few years, I ran our Canadian synthetic products book, which is Canadian equity swaps. And Yeah, it was decent. I had a pretty successful stay there. I feel confident in saying that. But again, I wasn't feeling fulfilled with the things that
Hmm.
I wanted out of life. Namely, I don't think I had the flexibility that I wanted with my family, and I also feel like I needed to prove a little bit more to myself what I wanted to do, and have a sense of, can I really, am I being, I used to say this to my wife all the time, I feel like I'm just being too safe in
Hmm.
terms of, I'm not going for it all. And so I had the crazy idea of becoming an entrepreneur. And we started a self-funded search fund, my wife and I, and we took it very seriously, as we do almost everything that we do. I mean, we looked through hundreds of listings, signed dozens of NDAs, but we were operating out of New York City area, New Jersey City, and we
Hey,
were
Isaiah, I
targeting.
don't mean to interrupt you, but just explain what a self-funded people, Axel, and people listening to this. Can you explain kind of high level what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. A search fund is kind of sort of the hot name or trendy name within sort of the MBA, the community, for people who are looking to purchase businesses, purchase existing small to medium sized businesses. Usually, it's more so on the small side, and so the theory is that you have a lot of well established businesses, cash flowing, healthy, but they don't necessarily have a good succession plan, and they're up for sale, and that comes down to different generational dynamics and things like that. They call it the silver tsunami, just because a lot of baby boomers are retiring, and they don't necessarily
Yep.
have people who are picking it up, and so there's a bit of a market dislocation and opportunity for people to get very healthy, strong investments or businesses to invest into or to own rather, for not insane multiples.
Yep.
And it's been a big attractor for people, especially coming out of business school. I didn't go to business school. I don't necessarily have a want to go to business school, but I think I'm in business school right now, actually.
That's right.
But that it's effectively a catch-all, or a trendy phase for or phrase that people use to describe the search process for people looking to acquire businesses.
Isaiah, what you're learning right now in the position you're in, that you can't learn in business school.
No,
Like
yeah,
they're not going to teach you that, and you're kind of learning it every day, just being there and doing it, which is the best way to learn something.
yeah. I think so. It's definitely felt like an education in a lot of different ways, a test of mettle, of discipline, and just I think of a true character test in even more ways. But when I was feeling that I needed to do something more, a big question for me was really, do I even know? I can sit behind a Bloomberg terminal and a spreadsheet and market maker, price up a derivative, but do I really know how to unlock value for people? And like, what does that even mean?
Hmm.
Like, if this, I'm sort of at the whims of, my boss, my boss's boss, and all the way
Yeah.
up to the board, and they, one misstep and I could be out the door. And what do I have? How do I even know, to make a living for myself and provide for my family? So a lot of that was what was the impetus for, to start that search fund journey and all that stuff. And long story long, we were looking for months, but in the meantime, I was just sort of at my wits' end at work, and we really wanted to make a transition away from the New York City area. We were really targeted on South Florida, and so we actually came along this franchise opportunity for 1-800 Striper, which is the business I now own, which met all the criteria that we had in our search fund, except for obviously being a pre-existing business with a book
Hmm.
of business and revenue and EBITDA targets and whatnot. But we viewed it then as a stepping stone. I still think we do, in terms of getting us down here, getting us oriented and settled, and growing the business, and learning all about what small business is like in this in this community that we're in, centered out of Boca Raton. So we, in a whirlwind, moved down in the end of May, the very end of May, and opened doors on July 1st. And so we've been in operation for a little over a year now. Survived. So
Yeah, I follow you online, and I see sometimes you post you get a big job or something, and I'm like, yeah, I'm your biggest cheerleader behind the scenes. You've been doing great. I'm really proud of you, both
thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Taylor's been a huge help as well, and we're co-owners. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do. Couldn't do it without her. So she's
no,
been
no question, no
support.
question. And you think about the journey he just laid out, Axel. Like sometimes you're forced to pivot in your life, not by your choice, just by circumstances. He had an injury. He spent his whole like youth in the gym, like shooting basketball, getting ready to be the best basketball player he could, and got injured. Then he pivoted to Wall Street. Like that was another passion of his. He had to pick. He had to move there. And then he found that wasn't as fulfilling as he thought it would be. And now he's chasing that path. So there's various chapters. You're going to have things in your life that happen to you that you might not have full control over, but you can control your response to them. And that's exactly what Isaiah did. And that's why I'm really, really proud of him. So you have a question for him?
So, Mr. Isaiah, who would you say was your greatest mentor, and what did they teach you?
I would actually say my own father. Like my dad, and like I said, he was a basketball player. He was a high school and college All American. Played at UNLV and the University of Hawaii. Actually, he got drafted. This was back in I think '76 or '75 to both the NBA and the ABA. And then he got really severely injured his first year, his rookie year, and that cascaded into like a bunch of things where he wound up actually never playing basketball again. Lost the use of his arm and struggled with addiction issues for a number of years. And then he, picked himself back up. Has been clean now for I guess probably almost 40 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, and started his own nonprofit in terms like it's called Alternative Decisions to help out other people and kids to make the right choices. But he in everything he taught me, him and my mom, both of them been big inspirations. But they taught me, I would say, definitely discipline, but also knowing to never give up. Knowing to just never give up. And my dad would always tell me about how he was the reason he got so good at basketball was because he got beat by a girl when he was I think 13. He was I'm 6'8", my father's 6'10". He was big lanky kid but didn't really play sports and got beat by a girl and was so embarrassed that he literally stayed on the playground from sun up to sundown for an entire summer and just started becoming really good at basketball. And I think the lesson sort of is he was just a very sensitive young man, but he didn't let that deter him from going out and achieving things, and I don't think you have to be like quote unquote the toughest in terms of the most bravado or whatever it may be, the loudest barker, but you can have a really quiet determination and work your way through things, the good things and the bad things in life.
That's really good. That's a great lesson. If I could, I want to go back to when you made the decision. So many people that I talk to would give their left or right arm to be in a big firm like Goldman Sachs and to be in a position to rise up, quote unquote corporate ladder. When you made that decision to leave, were people like, "What are you doing?" Because it happened to me when I left. People were like, "You're crazy." Did people think you were nuts, like your colleagues and other people around you?
Yeah, a lot of pushback. I would say a lot of people who thought it was a pretty insane decision. And I don't think I've always I've never really put or prized a title necessarily to what I do.
Yeah.
Even when I was a basketball player and all that stuff, I did try to be a little bit more well rounded as a person and definitely when I was at Goldman, I didn't want that to be. I didn't want to be just another finance guy or something like that. I don't know if I would have had my wife if I was.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it's, and I'll lean on my mother for this for inspiration. She studied to be an architect and actually, got through architecture school, which she said was one of the most difficult things she's ever done. And then actually went and became a doctor, after, because she wasn't in love with that and wanted to go help people. And I think she would definitely tell me to always, regardless of what other people will say, they'll opinions are, everybody has one. And you just have to ignore it and follow what you believe to be true yourself.
Like follow your heart, right?
Yeah, yeah. Follow your heart. Follow what you believe in. And if it is a left when everybody is making a right, you just have to be confident in that decision.
You mentioned you have a lot of these, like from your father and your mother to pull from like overcoming adversity and achieving the things that they set out to do, and you got to kind of watch that. If you were to spend some time with Axel, other than like the hard work and stuff like that, are there any other advice that you would give a young person like him as he kind of thinks about his way in the world?
Yeah, I definitely think, and I can only speak from my own sort of experience, but if I was talking to my younger self, I would definitely try to push whatever boundaries I have. I had more when I was when I was at Goldman. It sounds silly, but like I would literally do things that were fears of mine. I went and took like an acrobatics course that they used to have in New York City, and forget what it was, but it's because like
Because you were scared of it and you just faced it.
exactly. I wish that's something that I wish I'd done sooner. And there every day there's something new coming down the pike, and you really just have to. Especially, I really just have to, especially now, just face it. And I think you are able to. Uh, you're able to really figure out who you are by pushing those boundaries. And a lot of times, I think you'd be quite pleasantly surprised about what you can do and what the limits of where you are or where you think you're bounded by are probably way further out than you'd expect. But you're not gonna know it if you're too scared to really go out and try it. So that would be my advice to
You're the
you.
first one that said that. I like that a lot. Like, just find something you're kind of afraid of and go try to do it. What are you afraid of, Ax? Like, what if you were to go do something? What would it be?
Baseball.
Baseball. Watching a fastball come down the pipe and trying to hit it. That would be good. We'll go to a batting cage and try it out, right?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You got another question?
Yeah. So what would you say is the best lesson that you've ever learned?
Uh, I think just that. I think I look at life, in terms of we only have so many, so much time on here, so many revolutions around the sun, right? And when you start to really shift your mindset to that, I think your time becomes much more precious, and you don't want to waste it. Not trying to make the most of your time here. Not trying to go out and experience things, have meaningful moments with people, for whatever that might mean for you. Whether that's helping people or seeing the world, or I don't know, even working out and getting stronger, or building a business, whatever it might mean. There's a big world out there, and there's a lot of reasons why you can kind of, I guess, stay in bed, or stay in a small hole and curl up. But then you're just gonna, at the end of the day, nobody. I shouldn't say nobody, but I don't know if anybody on their deathbed looks back and says, wow, I really tried too many things. I had too many experiences, right? I really tried to push myself too far, within reason, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
there are other things out there that you should be, wary of and in moderation. But I think in general, that would be that's probably the best lesson. I wouldn't call it necessarily like a lesson, but like a mindset shift that I've tried to imbibe.
That's good, Isaiah. You've probably heard this before. I've heard people say that one of the most important decisions that you'll make is your spouse, like who you decide to spend the rest of your life with as your partner. And Axe is young. You got a long way to go yet, but I do talk to a lot of people that are scared to make the leap, and they don't have the support of someone that wants them and believes in them to go chase their dreams. And I'll tell you, when I met your wife Taylor on our call, I think you guys were in full alignment, and that is also, I think, a little bit rare to see. So how important was she to helping you both make this leap?
I mean, she's been incredibly supportive of everything, and that doesn't mean it's always been easy
Sure.
of what we've done, but uh, I think we approach our marriage and our family in terms of sort of we obviously, you have your core of what you want, what is important, and I think we're actually able to achieve a lot of that in terms of spending time together, raising a healthy strong family, and being there for each other. But outside of that, we really back each other in terms of things that we want to do, in whatever area of life. My wife wanted to have a home birth, and I was, of course, like you can do it. And the thing is also the flip side of it is that not only is she supportive in that way, but she'll hold you to, we hold each other accountable to those types of things,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I don't think this probably wouldn't have been possible if I was with someone else, or even, I won't say alone, like it would be impossible, but it'd be much more difficult without her love and support.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Right, yeah. People who hold you accountable can push you really far.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good. Is any what's the next kind of year or so look like for you guys as you kind of think through the business and where you're at?
We've had a pretty successful, I would say fairly successful first year. It could always be better. But
Hmm.
we right now are looking at reinvesting into the business. So
Good.
we're probably going to be purchasing another truck in the next month or so. I
Good.
think we're nearing the area where like we have the workload to support that. And then after that, I think we have about 6 months to really step on the gas, and then kind of poke our eyes out, or poke our head up, because right about then we'll be at the 2 year mark. We're approaching it, and then we can think strategically about, okay, what would make sense to get into from here potentially. And I mean, we have set goals in terms of revenue numbers per month that we want to reach. Ideally, it would be in a place where we are able to bring in more people to take on the sort of day to day tasks, right, and
Mm-hmm.
focus more on working on the business versus in it. But I mean, the reality, I think, of a business of this scale, just being a startup, even a franchise startup, right, you're always going to be doing a little bit more than what is expected, I guess, of just like the title, right, of like an
Sure.
owner operator.
Yep.
So, and that's okay, but I do think ideally in about a year from now, I guess we it's just tactically it's just tough to get financing, right, or typical debt financing prior to 2 years. So we would hit our 2 year mark in April, and after that there may be ancillary businesses that we would look uh, to merge with, or buying potentially more territory, things that I think would make strong business sense from a growth standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Good. It's exciting times, and we will be rooting for you. And let's stay in touch. We appreciate you making some time, and Thank you. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it, hearing your story.
No, thank you. Thank you both for having me on. This is it's been great.
Yeah.
So,
Good luck to you, okay?
all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good job, Axe.
No,
Let's try it again. Oh, that was
That's
pretty good.
good. Yeah.
Thanks, Isaiah.
Thank
No
you.
problem. All right.
All right,
Take
bud.
care, guys.
Thanks for joining us today on Making a Man. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others. Together, we can keep inspiring and guiding the next generation. Thank you. See you next time.
Oh!